Godzilla, the game, is the worst thing to happen to Godzilla since Final Wars. No, wait. Start again. Be less inflammatory. Godzilla, the game, is the biggest ripoff to hit the PS4 since Destiny. No. Damn it. Godzilla, the game, released on July 14th, 2015 in North America for the PS4, came out in Japan last year for the PS3, which millions of people still own despite its successor being out for 2 years running. This is entirely appropriate since Godzilla's barely a PS3 game. If anything, it's a gussied-up version of the kind of game you play on your phone during the train ride to work in the morning. Which would be fine if it were on the front page of an app store, say, and priced at 99 cents. Hell, the entire Japanese video game industry seems to be moving towards that market, since that's where all the money is these days. Not that the console and PC audiences are tapped out or anything, it's just that you can't make all the money off of them. And if you can't make all the money, why even try to make any? This thing, for example, is a home console port priced at $60 US. And as such, it's a shameless ripoff made of bullshit and lies. They start right on the back of the box, which says, "Become the king of the monsters," and boasts of movie-like action and gameplay. Like it's a refugee from 2003, when such boasting still meant something. Before an entire section of the gaming populace formed a hostile little enclave dedicated to shitting on any game that tries to be too movie-like. The people who rob the word pretentious of any meaning through gratuitous overuse, turning it into a dog whistle. The last thing on the back of the box says, "Battle legendary monsters." Then it says the same thing in Spanish and French. They were banking on brand recognition alone because it's Godzilla, and we G-fans will supposedly buy anything sight unseen. Certainly worked on me. But fuck me, right? All I can do is warn the rest of you not to waste your money. Or time. Oh god, so much time. Start again. Godzilla, the game, for PS3 and 4, since the only real differences are graphical. Oh, and the piss poor has multiplayer, but let me tell you right now, no. Just no. Is a third-person action game published by Bandai Namco and developed by Natsumi Atari. No, not the Atari you're thinking of. This is a completely different Atari. A subsidiary of Natsumi Incorporated of Osaka, Japan. Makers of Harvest Moon, Rune Factory, and real fishing games. So you watch its CGI intro movie, which was also the trailer, and you think, hell yeah, the monsters look the best they've ever looked. To the point where you can make one hell of a movie with these models, if you rezzed them up high enough. I mean, look at Amaro Goji over there. Guy looks like he stepped right out of his own movie, right? Then you get into the actual game, and if you're anything like the G-fans I hang out with, you make a sad, strained noise as you discover that there's no, well, I still call it two-player, and everyone else seems to call it local multiplayer now, but regardless, you want to have a monster fight with another human being? That'll be $50 extra, please. In terms of Godzilla game design, it's an asinine step almost 2 decades backward to the 16-bit era. In fact, God of Destruction mode, which is the only real meat on this skeleton, is little more than a Big Brother version of what Super Godzilla for the SNES tried and failed to do back in 1993. But in high def, and with better sound, and particle effects. Oh, those particle effects. Remember when the PS4 tried to sell itself on those alone? It was only 2 years ago, you guys. I mean, come on. Which one of us here is supposed to have the short-term memory problems again? The story, for lack of a better word, is basically the same damn story every millennial Godzilla film tells, even the American one. Decades ago, Godzilla rose from the sea and fucked Tokyo up like Percocet, as seen in the 1954 film you should have all forced your friends to watch by now, and the tutorial section of this game, which does a poor job recreating it. In the interim, Japan used knowledge gained from Godzilla's raid to create G-energy, which is apparently good for something, I guess? It's an obvious stand-in for nuclear power, the casual mentioning of which is probably a social faux pas now with the memory of Fukushima still fresh. Never mind Godzilla and his stories exist as the perfect vehicle to explore the anxieties swirling around nuclear energy. It should be obvious by now that his owners consider him little more than a vehicle to sell merchandise to kids and idiots. In the present day, then, Godzilla's back, and hunting up the G-energy generators scattered around Japan. In the middle of built-up urban areas, of course. They aren't too built up. What's available already taxes the piss-poor subpar hardware, especially when you destroy a whole screen's worth of buildings at once. Will the military force created specifically for this eventuality, and named, as it was in Godzilla's 90s films, G-Force, be able to halt the monster's rampage? Well, no. Especially not now that you, the player, control Godzilla. At the start of Stage 1, you're 50 meters tall just like in the original film, and smashing buildings makes you grow ever so slightly. Growing lets you smash more buildings faster, which fills up the combo meter on the left, and makes a very stingy multiplier pop up. The higher your multiplier, the more height you gain from each smash, your goal being to become the 100-meter plus radioactive dinosaur we all know and love. Without that height, you won't stand a chance against the other 100-meter monsters that will inevitably pop up, especially if you take the hard path through the game's 25 stages. Of those 25, you'll only see 9 at a time, since the game has pretensions, oops, there's that word again, of being open in the most linear way imaginable. Once you beat Stage 1, you'll get a branching path. The top one's supposed to be easy, and the bottom one's supposed to be hard, but the only difference seems to be which Prime Minister is in charge, and how fast they order extra tanks, planes, and jets to their doom, since smashing those gives you height as well. These Prime Ministers, and the G-Force operator they talk to, are the closest things to characters in this piece. I'm sure if I paid more attention to Japanese politics, I'd be able to tell which major party each leader's meant to satirize. But even through the miasma of translation, I can tell this satire didn't go very deep. It didn't have the time, or the budget. They spent all that making every building in every stage do that double blue flash and then explosion thing they do in the movies. Didn't make the buildings any more variable or interesting, but, you know. It reminds me of this movie I seen one time, so I'm supposed to feel nostalgically placated. The side of me that enjoys video games certainly doesn't feel placated. Every time I choose the hard path, a 100-meter monster inevitably pops up in Stage 2. And since I never make it out of Stage 1 with more than 56 meters to my name, they always wreck me, without fail. Facing ignominious defeat, I hit continue, hoping for another go. And the 100-meter monster is always inevitably replaced by its 50-meter counterpart. Rarely have I seen a so-called hard mode nerf itself so readily. Why even set the challenge in front of us in the first place? Spite? What'd we ever do to you, Natsumi Atari? Besides, mistake you for that other Atari. The one that went bankrupt in 2013 and now makes social casino games, where you pay real money for fake chips that cannot be cashed back out. The one that published the 3 previous Godzilla games. Those suckers were all tournament fighters, and they were all awesome. Except the last one, because trying to control a giant monster with a Nintendo Wii remote is like trying to steer a battleship with a laser guidance system. Meanwhile, all the monsters in Godzilla 2015 control like tanks. The analog stick will still move you in the direction you press, very slowly. But you use the shoulder buttons to turn, adding an extra level of unresponsiveness and confusion to a game that really didn't need help with those. What is this, another Resident Evil remake? I didn't sign up for survival horror. I just want to smash a city and maybe smash another monster in the face. Actual kaiju fights always devolve into one-sided beatdowns, requiring no amount of strategy or skill. Hell, you'll have a tougher time fighting the camera for an angle that'll let you judge distances properly. The default over Godzilla's shoulder view is too low to the ground, especially if you're fighting anything shorter than your big G. And since every blow comes with a son of a bitch level of knockback, the camera has a bad habit of swinging around to the default position, forcing you to start the whole process all over again. It's tedious and dull. 2 words that should never describe a giant monster battle. But if you really want dull tedium, beat the game and realize, if you want to see the true ending, you have to beat the game again, and be at least 100 meters tall by the time you hit Stage 7. To grow that tall that fast, you'll have to destroy 100% of all the stages in as many unbroken lines as possible. Like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, but slower, and without any local multiplayer. This runs entirely counter to the true appeal of any Godzilla-based property in the process of trying to capture it. Players want to be Godzilla. Hell, humans want to be Godzilla, period. You think he survived for 60 years just because he's the mascot of one of Japan's biggest movie companies? Fuck no. He survived because he is the personified id of an entire culture, trapped in urban hives from cradle to grave, packed on top of each other like canned fish, and secretly, or not so secretly, depending on how safe we feel in any given social context, longing to pull it all down in a rain of red burning slag. It's the same force that drives people to wish and prepare for a zombie apocalypse. Except some of us don't want to deal with the Walking Dead, since, as far as we're concerned, we do that often enough already. We'd much rather reduce everyone to cute little piles of radioactive ash. Thanks. And we especially don't want to see the main draw of our beloved kaiju franchise reduced down to a dull routine. Have you ever had a friend or lover who fell asleep while watching your favorite Godzilla film? Play through God of Destruction mode a few times and you will know how they feel, and it will frighten you. Especially once you realize it was all for nothing. Save gathering the necessary... Shiro Honda, help us. Upgrade materials for the leveling system euphemistically titled Evolution Mode. Why does a Godzilla game need a leveling system? Well, the story campaign is only an hour long, so after you beat the game, the only thing to do is beat it again. With slightly more useful moves and quicker recharge time for your breath. Want to upgrade your favorite monster all the way? Better get used to grinding through the game over and over again. The true ending and secret stage are basically a recreation of the end of 1995's Godzilla vs. Destroya. So, spoiler alert for a 20-year-old film, I guess. Only instead of Destroya, a Mero Goji Mark II shows up to show you why you could unlock him early if you pre-ordered the game through GameStop. Because he's a cheap, overpowered bastard, designed specifically to make you pay for not pre-ordering like a good little consumer. Thankfully, he can't do a damn thing against a good corner trap. None of the monsters can. And really, how could they? There's no block button in this game. Roaring does give you a few frames of temporary invincibility. So get real good at spamming that and Godzilla's nuclear pulse attack. All the other moves are so situational they might as well not exist. Movie-like action indeed. The 90s are back, baby, yeah! Godzilla films of that era garnered a bit of a reputation in their day for boring fight scenes that oft devolved into combatants trading ray blasts and nuclear pulses with each other from across a set. But someone seems to have preferred that style of kaiju fighting. So much so they built a whole damn combat system around it. No, you didn't fall through a time portal and wind up back in 1991. You heard me right. This is a fighting game, according to some sources, and a character action game, according to others, obviously an insult to either genre, with a subscription-only multiplayer, no offline two-player, no blocks, no counters, and the most annoying excuse for a dodge in the world. Released in 2015 at a starting retail price of $60. It seems obvious to me Namco Bandai wanted to milk Godzilla's international fan base by making a game with as little effort as possible, outside of the art and marketing departments. By now I hope you know where I stand on such a project. And don't come at me with that, "But Dave, obviously it's just a stupid game for the children." Or, "But Dave, obviously it's made by and for to hardcore fans." Stop throwing children and your fellow fans under the bus whenever it's rhetorically convenient. I've been watching Godzilla movies since I was 6 and plan to keep watching them for years to come. I cut my internet teeth having long, detailed, vicious forum arguments about the most absurd minutiae in this franchise. I am to hardcores. And I am telling you, this game should be titled Rip-Off in a Box. Just add uncritical consumers and their money. We waited 8 years for a new Godzilla game, and 11 years for a Godzilla game we could call good without pages of equivocations. And we're still waiting. But that's the entertainment industry right now, isn't it? If anything, we G fans got off lucky. We didn't have to endure 3 to 5 years of pre-release hype as the creators water-tortured us with steady drips of marketing buzz-speak disguised as information. We didn't have to endure an annual parade of cringe-inducing stage presentations, featuring heavily doctored trailer footage running on a PC backstage because that'll make them look better. The better it looks, the more people will buy it before it comes out, and the more money the publisher makes before anyone knows whether or not it sucks. If they can make all the money by doing that, why should they even bother making anything else? Like a good game. Just as a for instance.
Godzilla has gone down.